Howdy everybody, welcome back to Combo Compendium. It's been a minute. I kind of missed Phantom Nightmare completely, but as you can see, I've been moving a lot. So today we are jumping straight into Legacy of Destruction, which I'm probably going to be making a few videos about some archetypes from that set coming out at the end of next month. And one of them that has the most room for experimentation, I think, is Raika. So the Raikas in general are a plant, insect, and reptile tri-type archetype. They're very similar to Tri-Brigade in that they have like a game plan on their own, but they synergize with you putting in like other archetypes in order to supplement the Raika cards. So there's a ton of different variants that you can play. You know, you got like Predaplants, you can do Raika, Sun Avalon stuff, you can do Alien stuff, Ogdoadic stuff. There's tons of variants. I'm not going to cover all of them because there's just too many, but I will be covering some that I found the most interesting. But let's just start off with the absolute basics here, right? Luckily, the deck does have quite a number of one-card starters, one of them being this card, Raika no Beetrooper. It has two pretty good effects. You can special summon this card from your hand by sending one insect, plant, or reptile from your hand to the graveyard. You can only special it once per turn this way. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add up to 2 Raika cards with different names from your deck and or banishment to your hand. Then banish 1 card from your hand, and you can't special monsters for the rest of the turn except insect, plant, and reptile. Now that is the one part where this deck does differ from Tri-Brigade, in that you're kind of locked into the tri-types, whereas in Tri-Brigade you can summon any link monsters that you want as long as you use the tri-types as material. So it's a bit worse, I think, in that way, but that's not the worst thing because, you know, there's a lot of really good plant links, there's a lot of really good reptile links, so it's not the end of the world, but it is annoying. So let's just show you the 1-card Beetrooper combo here. So we're going to normal summon, we're going to add 2 cards from our deck to our hand, and then banish one of them. The one we're going to banish, is this insect guy, which you can special summon from your hand by placing 1 banished insect, plant, or reptile on the bottom of the main deck. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a link summon of a Raika monster, target a level 4 or lower tri-type in your grave and then special it. So we're going to banish the insect, and we're going to keep this continuous spell, which says all insect, plant, and reptiles on the field gain 300 attack and defense. Also all other monsters lose 300 attack and defense. And then once per turn, you can either add a Raika monster from your deck to your hand, then discard a card, or special summon 1 Raika monster from your hand, graveyard, or banishment in defense. So this card is very nice because if you don't have your 1-card starter in Beetrooper, it can search it. Also, it can just be used as an extender. So this card on its own is both like a monster reborn and a 1-card combo. You know, it just depends which effect that you need to use. So we're going to add this, we're going to go ahead and activate it, and we're going to use the effect to summon one of our banished monsters. So we're going to summon out Mr. Insect, and we're going to link 2 into this guy. So it's a plant link 2. It requires 2 monsters, including just any of the tri-types. And once per turn, you can target a Raika monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense. And if this card is in your graveyard, target 1 tri-type monster you control, place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, special summon this card. Now, Raika has 4 link monsters, and all of them have this secondary effect where if it's in the grave, you can shuffle back a monster you control to summon it out. So really the only difference between all of the Raika links is the first effect. This one, quite nice for just link climbing. So we can use our insect effect here, which will summon out our plant, and then we can use our Dokuro to summon out the insect. So you can see just off of one card, we're already just kind of spamming the board with stuff, which is nice. All right, now we're going to go up into our link 3 using the insect. It is important to use the insect here. I'll tell you why. Because this is the link 3, and you can banish 2 insect, plant, and or reptiles from your grave, add a Raika trap from your deck to your hand. So you can see we have the insect and the link 2 in grave, but we actually need to keep this link 2 in the graveyard. So what we can do is we can link off this plant for the link 1 Sun Avalon Dryas. And this is going to put 2 monsters in the graveyard that we want to banish here. So we can actually banish both of these and then add out the trap card. Now the trap card's pretty good. It's kind of like an, I don't know how to describe it. It's not Icarus attack, but it just like pops a bunch of cards. So you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of insect, plant, and reptiles you control with different types and destroy them. And its graveyard effect is if a face-up insect, plant, or reptile is destroyed while this card's in the graveyard, you can banish this to target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So if you can get multiple different types of your links onto the field, this card can pop a ton of cards at once, which is very nice to have on a trap card. I guess it's like Ritual Beast Steeds. That's the comparison I should have used. All right, so we can set our trap here, and we're going to use the link 2 in grave. We're going to bounce back this Dryas to summon him out. And this will allow us to now link up into a link 5 in the form of Dialga. This is the boss monster of the deck currently. So it's a link 5, requires 2 monsters, so you know it's very easy to summon in this deck. It has the same secondary effect as everything else, but the first effect is if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's deck and or extra deck, you can destroy 2 monsters on the field. If your opponent's playing a deck that just kind of goes wide or has to summon multiple extra deck monsters in order to like facilitate their combo, then this can, you know, popping 2 combo pieces at the same time can be pretty devastating. Combined with the fact that you also just have the trap card as well, which depending on what other engines you use and how much extension you have, you can probably have some other types on the board as well. You know, it's a 1-card combo. You get 3 pops, and you get set up in grave for next turn, because remember, every link can summon itself back as long as you have a monster. You can get a monster back by either searching with this or special summoning with this on the follow-up turn. So it's not a super impactful inboard just at a pure baseline level. But 3 pops and then tons of follow-up is pretty good. But the real show is when you get to like the different variants and then you start doing all this crazy stuff. So, you know, let's try to speed through these 1-card combos real quick. So now, just for the sake of the compendium, we're gonna show off the 1-card combo with the spell. Now this will require a discard, but you know, there's a lot of archetypes you will be playing with this deck where you don't really mind discarding cards, so it's perfectly fine. So yeah, we can just search the plant, and then the plant, instead of adding the insect and the spell, we're going to add the insect and the reptile, which this card's pretty good. It's like a one-of in the deck. You can special summon it by banishing a insect, plant, or reptile from your grave, so it's an extender, which is pretty nice. And then during your turn, you can discard an insect, plant, or reptile to basically just bounce a monster your opponent controls. So it's not a bad card to have in the deck as a one-of. It's removal, it's an extender, you can search if you need it. So it's not bad. But we're going to banish it and keep the insect, because the insect can put back the banished monster to special summon. And then from here, it's just the same line as last time. You know, go up into the link 3, get the trap by banishing these 2, and then shuffle back the Dryas to summon back the link 2, and we get our link 5 plus our trap. So it's another 1-card combo. You just start with the spell instead of the monster. So now let's get into a little bit of the supplementary packages that you can play with the Raika cards, because they are, completely generic for any tri-type deck. One of the best cards you can play with Raika is Lone Fire Blossom, because not only is it a, technically another copy of your plant starter, because you can just tag it out for the plant, but you can also reborn it and then use it again to get into another archetype. Something like Sun Avalon, Raika, Aroma, and even Predaplant. Just for the sake of example, we're going to tag out our Lone Fire for Marikobe. We're going to go ahead and get our searches, banish our insect, summon back the insect, go up into our link 2, and because the insect can summon back any level 4 or lower plant, we can actually summon back the Lone Fire here. We can use the link 2 to bring back the other plant. And now we're in a position where we have a bunch of plant fodder, right? And Lone Fire is not a hard once per turn. So we're going to go ahead and tag out the Lone Fire again for an Orphis Scorpio. We can use Orphis Scorpio effect to get the Cobra, and Cobra can add any fusion spell from deck to hand, so we're going to get our instant fusion. Now technically you can add things like Super Poly, but the way that this deck kind of locks itself into the tri-types, Super Poly isn't super good when you're on the play during your turn, but it can be used during your opponent's turn. So it's something that's worth trying. Having a highly searchable Super Poly is pretty good, but you can basically only use it during your opponent's turn, because all of the good targets like Mud Dragon and Garura are not within the tri-type, so it's basically only an interruption, not really like a board breaker. So we're going to go ahead and link up into our link 3, and at this point we have plenty of material in grave to just banish stuff, so we can go ahead and banish to add the trap card. Next we're going to go for our link 1, and we're going to go for so the reason we go for the Dryas here is because it gives us 2 link monsters on field. That adds up to a link 4, which gets us into the Trintiae, however you say that. And the important thing about this card is that it adds a Sun Avalon trap. So we're going to get Sun Avalon Bloom. And this card is pretty good, because when it's activated, if you control a link 4 or higher plant monster, when it resolves, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. So basically it can be, most of the time you're just going to be using it as like 1 negate, except for the very rare situations where, I don't know, I guess it could be good if your opponent like specials a Fenrir and then like normal summons another monster and tries to use its effect. You can get a nice 2-for-1 like that. But most of the time it's just like 1 monster negate, and it's non-targeting, so that can also be a plus against decks like Voiceless. So we get our trap here, and in order to use it we have to keep this on field, or if you have a ton of extension, you can make a Bengal Lancer. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and use our instant fusion, and our instant fusion is going to get out the Predaplant Embublement. And it can, on summon, it can just add any Predaplant monster or Predap spell trap. So you can add like another Scorpio and use that as follow-up. Because you only need to play 1 Darlingtonia Cobra, because what we can do is just use the 2 links we have to put the Darlingtonian Cobra back in the deck, which means next turn Orphis Scorpio now has a target to special out, which is really cool. And we can go ahead and bounce back our plant fusion as well to summon out the link 3, and of course these add up to the link 5. So now we get the link 5, we get this, which cannot be attacked, which is very nice, so your opponent has to attack this guy. And importantly, we now have 2 types on the field, because this guy is an insect and this is a plant, which means our trap card is now 2 pops. So we have 2 pops from the Dialga, we have 2 pops from the trap, and we have a full board negate. You know, sometimes a full board negate, but most of the times just a monster negate. So, I don't know, it's like 3 interruptions, but also technically 5 interruptions if your opponent's playing a deck that just, you know, goes pretty wide and spams the board. You know, and we got all of that off of a Lone Fire. So, you know, playing these supplementary packages like the Predaplants, it gives you just so much extra bodies to be able to link climb into things like this and get even more interaction. Now I'm going to show you something else you can do with the Predaplants as well if you want to go for more of like a heavier Predaplant package. So here's a nice simple 2-card combo for you, starting with the Scorpio and the Marikobe. One cool thing I haven't mentioned yet is that, I don't know if it's in here, but as long as you're playing like any plant package, you can turn any plant archetype into your Raika cards by pivoting into an Aromage Jasmine. Because you can make the Jasmine and then tribute a monster you control to summon out the Marikobe. And the Marikobe gets you your full Raika package. So, you know, every archetype can kind of like pivot into each other in this deck, which I think is really cool. So we're going to start just by summoning out the Scorpio, discarding the Marikobe, getting out the Cobra and our instant fusion. Next we can go up into our Link 2 and special out the Marikobe. We're going to go ahead and get our two usual suspects here. And we can summon out our insect, go up into the Link 3. The insect will summon back the Cobra. And we're going to go ahead and search our trap card using any 2 cards from our graveyard except the Link 2 here. Next we're going to link up into our Dryas and summon out the Emblem, which will add another Orphis Scorpio for follow-up. So we can actually use this guy's second effect, which will let us basically tag out this Dryas for this guy that I'm not going to pronounce. And his effect is that he's basically polymerization. So we can go ahead and fuse these 2 into a Dragostapelia. So if you don't really want to go for the Dryas, or maybe you don't want to play that package in a more dedicated Predaplant Raika build, then you can also just go for a Stapelia, and Stapelia is a very nice quick effect monster negate. Right, and then again we want to put back the Darlingtonian Cobra with our Link 2 so that we can use this Orphis Scorpio again next turn, and this will go up, of course, into our Link 5. And again, we do have the double pop with the trap because these are 2 different types. So we have the 2 pops here, the 2 pops here, and the monster negate here. And that was off of a 2-card combo, so you know, you might have more extenders or some hand traps or whatever. So this is just like a really basic example of what you can do in maybe like a Predaplant build. This is also another build where, you know, if you go heavy on the Predaplants, you can, instead of searching instant fusion, you know, maybe you already have a way to get to this guy. You can get out the Super Poly. Because if you're playing a bunch of the Predaplant fusions in the extra deck, then, you know, Super Poly gets a lot more value. So that's just another thing to think about. One final thing I want to just briefly go over in terms of the plant packages is I just want to show off that Jasmine play that lets you pivot into any other plant archetype. So we're going to normal summon our Marikobe. We're going to get the standard 2, summon these 2 out, and reborn both of these. Now you want to summon this to, you know, one of these like 1st, 3rd, or 5th zone, because we're going to link these 2 off into a Jasmine, because these are both the plants, right? And Jasmine requires 2 plants, and, you know, once per turn, you contribute a monster this card points to, special summon 1 plant monster from your deck. But you can see here, we're going to tribute our insect to summon out Lone Fire. And you don't have to summon out Lone Fire in any other package, but if you're playing specifically the Sunseed stuff. So maybe you're playing like a Rika engine in your, Rika Sun Avalon deck. Oh my god, Rika. I'm gonna get those two confused all the time. If you're playing a Raika package in your Rika Sun Avalon deck, you want to get Lone Fire because you need the extra Monster Zone free in order to do your Sun Avalon combos. So it's good that you get the Lone Fire because you can tribute the Jasmine out, and then when you go for the Dryas, it lets you add the Sowing. And then from there you can just do literally everything. I'm not going to go over all of it because it's going to take like 20 minutes. But there are plenty of videos out there on, some Rika Sun Avalon combos. And I do want to quickly mention this channel. They have a couple of these Raika combos, like the Raika Sun Avalon combos with, all the Therians and everything you could possibly ever want. So go look at them. They have 3 Raika combos here, so you can decide which one you like the most. I think this one is 60 cards, so if you're a pile enthusiast, you can play that. Alright, so now let's move from all of the plant stuff into some of the reptile stuff. And the most obvious one everybody thought of was, oh yeah, you just Snake Rain, dump a bunch of Ogdoadics to grave, and then just spam the board with stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to activate Snake Rain. We're going to send Night Sword, Curse, Nauya, and Nunu. And of course, Night Sword Serpent, if it's sent to the grave, can special out, which is nice because it gives us free tribute fodder for our Curse. And when Curse is summoned, it can summon out a Ogdoadic from grave. So we're going to get the Nauya. And Nauya, when it's normal or special summoned, can add a Ogdoadic spell trap from deck to hand. So we can get our Ogdoadic Daybreak. And this card is absolutely nuts. I don't know what they were thinking when they printed this. But you contribute a reptile, and then for every 2 levels that monster had, you can summon a token. So if you tribute the level 8, we get 4 reptile tokens for free. There's no restriction on this card at all. And then it also has a graveyard effect, which you can banish it, target a banished reptile, shuffle it into the deck, and then Foolish Burial another reptile from your deck. This card is absolutely custom. Right, so we're going to tribute our level 8, and then we just get out 4 tokens for free, and we can do whatever we want with them. So we're going to go up into our Link 2. We're going to use Nunu from grave to summon out, and then we can overlay these 2 for a King of the Feral Imps, which can add any reptile from deck to hand. So we're going to use it to add out our Serpentine Princess, because we have not normal summoned yet. Alternatively, if you have normal summoned, you can send this to grave, and then later on in the turn you can use, if you have access to your Raika engine, you can summon this back with the level 4 insect guy once you link that off. So there's multiple ways to get to this. Snake Rain is the easiest. So we're going to go ahead and just normal summon this out. We're going to go up into our Link 3, and then we're going to use our Link 2 in grave, shuffling back the Serpentine to summon out. And Serpentine's effect is that when she's shuffled back into the deck, she triggers in the deck to summon out any level 4 or lower monster, I think. So this can summon out the Raika. So if you don't already have access to the Raika engine, this is how you get to it off of just the Snake Rain. So we're going to go ahead and get our basic 2. We can use this to summon out. And then from here, we kind of have enough material on board to do whatever, right? Oh yeah, and you can use this to dump, whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. Alright, so we're going to go up into our Dialga here with our Link 3 and our Link 2. We can, shuffle back something to summon out the Link 3. Use our plant to make Dryas, and of course this makes the Sun Avalon, which can get us our trap. And from here, we're going to end on something different, right? We're going to use the Dialga. We're going to trigger the Insect Engrave to summon out any plant monster. And this gives us Link 4's material worth of plants. So this will actually get us into a Bengalancer. And Bengalancer is during the main phase quick effect. Target an effect monster your opponent controls, take damage equal to its attack, and then return it to the hand. It also has a graveyard effect where you can special summon it back out, which is pretty on theme for the Raikas because they all just have graveyard effects that summon out. Now Lithium did a video on this deck, and he did a combo where he ended on the Link 5 and the Sun Avalon, but he also ended on the Link 4 Raika, which I haven't covered yet because I just don't think it's really that good. If your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate this effect. Neither player can activate monster effects in the hand for the rest of the turn. So I don't think this card is super great as just like an end piece, because against a lot of decks, this effect just does not matter at all. And once you get to the point where you summon out this card, your opponent's probably already dumped all their hand traps on you anyway. And even if you do get to the point where you can activate this effect, your opponent can still chain hand effects to it. So if you get to this point in the combo, and your opponent, like, I don't know, uses a Phantasme or something, I don't know. Like, they use a Phantasme to draw 3 cards, and then you activate this effect, your opponent's just gonna like chain nib, because they can still chain to this effect. So I just think this card is not good at all, unfortunately. So rather than ending on a Link 4 that does nothing and another Link 4 that does nothing, we're just going to end on the Bengalancer because it's another interruption, and its graveyard effect is even more follow-up if our board gets broken, right? And of course we still get our 2 traps, and these are both different types. And the Sun Avalon Bloom requires that you control a Link 4 or higher plant monster. You don't have to have a Sun Avalon monster. So Bengalancer fulfills that condition. So you get 2 pops here, you get 2 pops here, you get the negate here, and you get the bounce. So you're looking at like 6 interruptions just off of 1 copy of Snake Rain. So, you know, plus having tons of follow-up engrave, right? You have Nunu to summon back, and then you can bounce back Nunu to summon out your Link 5 again, or, you know, banish some Links to summon out the Bengalancer again. So it's a pretty sticky board. You got good follow-up, you got 6 interruptions. It's not bad for just a nice easy Snake Rain combo. Alright, so now let's move on to another reptile strategy. This time we're going to be talking about aliens, which, you know, aliens are cool. Everybody likes aliens. Except the fact that the alien cards are kind of degenerate. They're basically floodgates. Against some decks, it's like even a turn skip. So, you know, the aliens are cool, but man, are they very straightforward and really oppressive. So let's go for Snake Rain yet again. Again, this is our 1-card Snake Rain combo. We're going to send all the same 4 as last time, so, you know, nothing new we got to cover here. We can just summon out all of our guys, get our Daybreak. We're going to bring out the Nunu, make a King of the Feral Imps to add the Serpentine yet again. Then we can go ahead and get all 4 of our tokens, and we can start popping off here. With our Daybreak, instead of sending you know, any other Ogdoadic, there is a specific card we want to send, which is Alien Stealth Buster. Now this card's effects aren't super important. The main thing we want to do with this is just summon it back to the field and then leave it there. And you'll see why later. So we're just going to go ahead and start link climbing a little bit up into our Link 3, normal out the princess, and then you know, put the princess back in the deck to trigger its effect. summon out our Raika. And of course this gives us access to our entire engine here. So we're going to go up into our Link 4 into our Link 5. So we are actually using the Link 4 as a combo piece here. And there is a reason for that, because we just want reptiles. So we have our Link 5, we have our Link 2 and 2 reptiles. And then of course when we make the Link 5, we want to trigger the insect to summon back out the Stealth Buster. And the Stealth Buster is just going to be chilling here. Now we're going to put back the Link 2 to summon out the Link 4 because it's a reptile. And from here what we can do is just Link 3 into a Cosmic Slicer Zeril. This card is crazy. So what it does is monsters your opponent controls with A counters are changed to defense. Also neither player can activate their effects. Right, so that's pretty insane. You know, everything is changed to defense, and then it kind of just skill drains your opponent's board, right? They can't activate their effects. And if this card is Link summoned, you can add one card from your deck to your hand that has an effect that places A counters. But you might be wondering, how are we going to get A counters on all of our opponent's monsters? Well, we have this card called Planet Pollutant Virus, which says tribute one alien monster, destroy all face-up monsters without A counters your opponent controls, and until the end of your opponent's third turn after this card's activation, place one A counter on each monster they summon. So this card is absolutely insane. And this is why we needed the Stealth Buster on field, right? Because when we set these two, you know, you can rip the Pollutant, tributing the alien, and now we have the Zeril, and every monster our opponent summons for the next 3 turns are all going to get switched to defense and skill drained, which gives you more than enough time to kind of break through an OTK. You know, you have 3 turns to OTK, which is not hard when we have all of this engrave plus this. You know, not to mention the fact that, you know, we still have Dialga's double pop. We still have this to double pop because these are both different types. So it's a really oppressive board. It's also one of the main ways that this deck doesn't get completely obliterated by cards like Even Lead. Because if you get Even Lead, like this effect is still just blanketed over your opponent. So if you get Even Lead, you can keep the Zeril, and then, you know, your opponent still can't really do anything because Zeril's just gonna kind of floodgate all of them. So this is pretty nice. If your opponent's on a combo deck, they're kind of just fucked because this negates all their effects, and even if they are able to summon out a bunch of monsters, you have this to pop 2, you have this to pop 2. It's been a while since we've seen a jank alien deck, but I think this deck really has the potential to abuse these cards like crazy. So, you know, this is something you got to keep in mind to watch out for. And our last combo here is just going to be a quick demonstration of a Beetrooper combo. Now, I'm not an expert on Beetroopers and the insect stuff, so take this with a little grain of salt. There might be ways you can improve upon this a bit better, but this is just a very simple one that I was able to come up with, even as a Beetrooper novice. So we're going to do all of our basic stuff here. Right, we're just going to get out all of our 4 materials as per usual. And we're going to go into the Jasmine line here to get the Scorpio. Because what this will do is let us get Instant Fusion. And Instant Fusion is basically like a 1-card Beetrooper engine. So we're going to summon out our Cruel Saturn with Instant Fusion. And if this card is special summoned, you can add a Beetrooper card from your deck to your hand. So, right, so this is going to let us get a Scout Buggy, which is a very nice starter for the deck. Next, we're going to go up into our Raika no Ogaminushi, or Link 3, which luckily for us is an insect, which makes some of these combos very easy. That this guy is very coincidentally an insect. right? Because then we can just link these two off for our Armor Horn. Armor Horn gives us an additional normal summon of an insect, so we're going to summon out Scout Buggy, and Scout Buggy can summon another one from deck. And from here we can just go ahead and shuffle back our last remaining plant monster. And you can see now that we now have a board just completely full of insects, right? So we can go all through the motions here for our insect link combos. So we can go into a Pico Felina, discard another card. Unfortunately, this combo does require a lot of discards. So we're going to equip the Resonance Insect to our Raika Link 3 here. And then we're going to link these two off for a Invincible Atlas. Insect Resonance will trigger here to add Doomdozer, and then we can use our Atlas to tribute the Pico Felina to summon out the Sting Lancer. And Sting Lancer will get us the counter trap. Now if you have enough insects in grave, you can also use Pico Felina to shuffle back 3 and then draw a card. So, you know, you can kind of offset the discards a little bit by using her effect to draw. Alright, now we're just going to go ahead and summon out this Doomdozer here. Resonance Insect will trigger. You can kind of send whatever. You know, if you're going for like a Seraph line, you can send the Scary Moth, and then Scary Moth is kind of like a Winda, so you can kind of Winda your opponent, I guess. Right, but then we're just going to use these two to go up into our Raika Dialga. Alright, so then we get these two sets. Beetrooper Flying Sting is if your opponent activates a monster effect. If you control a Beetrooper, you can negate it and destroy it. So we have the negate, we have the double pop from the Dialga, and we have the double pop from this. And of course this was all just off of like this guy. You know, so if you're playing with a 5-card hand and you're a good Beetrooper player, you can probably end on a lot more than this, but this is just a very simple basic setup for some kind of Beetrooper combo. So, you know, you can expand on this however you feel like. And then just a few more honorable mentions before I go. A lot of people, I've seen some Trap Trick stuff. I think the Trap Trick stuff is a little, I don't know, it's a little too hand dependent from what I've seen. But people have done some pretty crazy stuff with like Trap Tricks Raika. And of course the Trap Tricks cards also add a lot to your end board by being able to, you know, play a bit more with the back row. There's also the Aromage stuff, which I did test a little bit, but again, I'm not an expert on the aroma stuff. To me, it was just, a lot of the aroma cards are just like going second, like board wipes, from what I could tell. It was almost like an OTK deck, so I don't know what the aromas do without just also teching in a bunch of Sun Avalon and Rika cards. And finally, Konami seems to be like pushing some kind of like plant insect synchro deck. Right, we saw this a lot last year in Photon Hypernova, because they started making all of these like insect and plant synchros and like synchro, like this guy, right? Like Circle of the Fairies, this card, also Diablantis, right? Like they started making a bunch of these plant and insect synchros. So that might be something worth looking into. I just don't know if there's like a real payoff for playing some kind of like Raika synchro deck at the moment, because you can see here, this is basically everything we have in terms of, you know what, let me just, for the sake of completion, let me add Reptile in here too, which I don't think adds very much. I mean, it adds this, right? This card's not terrible. But, you know, there might be the makings of some kind of Raika synchro deck where you play the circular, you play this, you can play Spore. Spore is a really good extender for plant synchros. I don't know, there might be something you can do with that. Because remember, the Raikas do lock you into the tri-types, so, you know, this is about all you're working with. So I might, if they make more support for like a plant synchro, I might look into it, but for now, that is it for the Raika video. I think next I want to make a U-Bell video, and I do want to also make some more Infernoble content as well, because after the Isolde ban, there's like 4 or 5 different ways to play Infernoble, so I might make a video discussing like the different engines you can play, the different normal summons, the pros and cons of all the different normal summons for Infernoble. But other than that, hope you enjoyed. It's been a while. Peace.